Her name was Lily Carter, a 19-year-old girl who learned the meaning of abandonment on a cold November night. She stood in the hallway while her father, Frank Carter, glared at her with his arms crossed as if she were a stranger. Behind him, her older sister Jenna calmly measured Lily's bedroom window like she was preparing for a renovation instead of a goodbye. "You're not worth the stress anymore," Frank said, his voice flat and final. Lily had only $35 in her pocket and an old 2004 Toyota Corolla whose heater barely worked. That was the night she realized home could throw you out and never look back. Lily packed her things into a black trash bag because she didn't own a suitcase and her hands were shaking too hard to fold her clothes neatly. She kept saying, "Dad, please listen," but Frank didn't answer, not even once. Her mother, Grace, stood in the kitchen doorway twisting a dish towel, whispering, "Just go, sweetie, he needs to calm down," even though Lily knew he wasn't calming down for anyone. Jenna stepped into the doorway pretending concern, saying, "I'm so sorry this happened, Lil," while her eyes scanned the room like she already owned it. Lily dragged the trash bag across the living room, down the porch steps and into the November wind. She whispered to herself, "I'll figure it out somehow," even though she didn't believe it yet. The first night she parked her Corolla at a supermarket lot and wrapped her thin hoodie around her legs because she couldn't waste fuel on a heater that only blew cold air. She didn't sleep, didn't close her eyes, didn't stop shaking as frost slowly climbed across the windshield. On the second night she tried the library parking lot, darker and quieter, hoping she could rest without drawing attention. At 2:45 a.m. a security guard tapped her window gently and asked, "Miss, are you okay?" It was the first human voice in 2 days that sounded kind. She nodded quickly and he simply said, "Stay safe," before walking away into the dark. By the third night her fingers were numb long before the clock hit 9. Lily tried calling Frank but the call didn't go through, blocked. She tried Grace but it rang 6 times and stopped. Jenna's number went straight to voicemail like it always did when Lily needed her. Finally she called her best friend Anna, who answered on the second ring and immediately said, "Lily, where are you? Don't move, I'm sending my mom." When Anna's mother, Mrs. Hayes, opened the car door and saw Lily's trembling hands, she whispered, "Sweetheart, you're freezing, you're safe now, okay? You're safe." Lily woke up the next morning in the guest room at the Hayes house, wrapped in a warm blanket that smelled like lavender detergent. For 4 quiet seconds she forgot everything, and then the memories rushed back like a collapsing roof. She walked downstairs where oatmeal was on the table and Anna sat waiting for her with puffy eyes. Mrs. Hayes placed a bowl in front of her and said softly, "You deserve a home where you don't have to fight for a place at the table." That sentence cracked something open inside Lily, something heavy she'd been carrying for years. She cried into her hands and Anna held her until she could breathe again. Later that afternoon, Mrs. Hayes sat across from Lily at the kitchen table and spoke in her calm, steady voice. "You can stay here but you'll need structure, not pity," she said, guiding Lily gently back toward her future. The rules were simple. Finish her GED by spring, find part-time work, and start applying to community college by summer. Lily nodded through every requirement because each one felt like a rope being lowered to someone drowning. She whispered, "I won't let you down," even though she wasn't sure she could keep up with life anymore. Mrs. Hayes simply replied, "Just keep showing up, sweetheart. That's enough." 2 weeks later, Lily sat at the same kitchen table and wrote a letter to her father by hand. She explained everything, begged him to listen, and ended it with, "Dad, I love you. Can I please come home?" She mailed it on a Tuesday afternoon, hoping the truth might reach him. 4 days later, the envelope returned untouched, with "Return to sender" written in Frank's sharp handwriting. Lily held it for a long moment before putting it in a shoebox under her bed. She didn't cry that day, she just went to her shift at the pharmacy and kept moving. Her GED classes became her routine, along with long evening shifts at a local drugstore where she earned just enough to survive. Every time exhaustion pushed her toward giving up, Mrs. Hayes's words echoed in her mind. One night, after a double shift, Lily sat in her car in the driveway, too drained to open the door. A single thought slithered into her mind. What if Dad was right about me? She stayed in the car until after midnight, staring at the fog on the windshield. When Mrs. Hayes found her, she didn't hug her or say empty comfort. She simply said, "If you believe his lie, he wins." Those words pushed Lily forward. She applied to Riverside Community College's nursing program, pouring her soul into the personal statement. She didn't mention her family or her past. She wrote, "I want to help people who have no one," and it was the truest sentence she'd ever written. When her acceptance letter arrived, Anna read it first and screamed so loud the neighbors peeked outside. Mrs. Hayes hugged Lily until her ribs hurt, whispering, "Your mother would be proud if she knew how to be brave." Lily didn't answer because bravery had never lived in her childhood home. Lily worked 2 jobs while surviving nursing school, her evenings spent behind a pharmacy counter and her weekends clearing tables at a diner. She studied in laundromats, bus stops and break rooms, memorizing anatomy terms between customers. She wasn't the fastest or the smartest, but she was relentless, driven by the fear of becoming the girl her father said she was. 4 years later, she graduated with honors, walking across the stage with only 4 people in the audience: Mrs. Hayes, Anna, and 2 co-workers. When she smiled for the graduation photo, it reached her mouth but not her eyes. She posted it online with a simple caption, "RN." Finally. After graduation, Lily accepted a position in the emergency department at Riverside Hospital, a place filled with chaos, flashing lights, and constant noise. She threw herself into the work, learning to move quickly and speak clearly even when her hands trembled. Within 2 years, she was nominated for Nurse of the Year, an honor she never expected. One afternoon, Dr. Adam Wells, a calm senior physician, pulled her aside and said, "You don't just treat people, Lily. You understand them." His words settled deep into her, warming a place that had been cold for years. That was the first time someone in authority believed she was capable of more. Dr. Wells encouraged her to advance her career and suggested she apply for a nurse practitioner program. Lily hesitated at first, unsure if she belonged in classrooms filled with people who hadn't grown up fighting their way through life. "You're ready," he insisted, handing her a recommendation letter he'd already written. She read it 3 times, stunned by the confidence he had in her. With trembling hands, she applied to Ohio State University, this time not out of fear but out of possibility. When the acceptance email arrived, Anna burst into Lily's room yelling, "You're doing it, Lil. You're actually doing it." During her NP program, Lily realized why she struggled to let people close. Because love had always come with conditions in her old home. She stayed single for 5 quiet years, telling herself she was simply too busy, though deep down she knew she didn't trust anyone to stay. Her classmates talked about families cheering them on, but Lily walked alone, carrying her history like a shadow behind her. Each night, she studied until her eyes burned, telling herself that independence was safer than longing. Still, when she helped patients who had no one, something inside her whispered, "I know how that feels." And that whisper kept her going. By 2022, Lily had completed her NP program and an idea began forming, one that grew stronger with each shift she worked. She wanted to build a free clinic for homeless veterans, people who reminded her of her father, people who deserved better than silence and closed doors. She spent months researching grants, writing proposals, and meeting with nonprofit boards. Dr. Wells became her mentor, guiding her through every confusing form and every zoning meeting. Mrs. Hayes connected her to local veteran support groups, saying, "These people fought battles most of us will never understand, Lily. Give them what no one gave you, another chance." Lily nodded because she knew exactly what she was building. 2 years later, the doors of Second Chance Community Clinic finally opened inside a renovated storefront on a quiet street. The first week, a small line formed outside, men and women in worn coats, carrying heavy stories and tired eyes. Lily greeted every one of them with the same warmth Anna's mother had once shown her. A local newspaper ran a short feature titled, "Young Nurse Practitioner Opens Free Clinic for Veterans." Lily didn't build the clinic to prove anything to the world, but when she saw the headline she whispered, "If only the girl in that cold car could see this now." She didn't know that someone unexpected would soon read that article. One quiet evening, Lily sat at her apartment desk reviewing patient charts when a notification pinged on her phone. It was a message request on LinkedIn, a platform she barely used except for work updates. The sender's name froze her completely, Frank Carter. She stared at the screen, her breath tightening, unable to move. His message was short. "Lily, I saw the article about your clinic. I always knew you had it in you. I'd like to reconnect. Your mother misses you." Lily read it twice, then a third time, feeling anger rise slowly like heat under her skin. She closed her laptop, put on her running shoes and ran 5 miles through the cool night air trying to calm her spinning thoughts. When she returned home, sweat soaking her shirt, she called Mrs. Hayes and said, "He found me." Mrs. Hayes listened quietly before answering, "Don't respond tonight. Don't decide anything while you're hurting." Lily followed her advice and let the message sit untouched in her inbox like a ticking clock. But Frank was never a patient man, and silence didn't stop him. 2 weeks later he sent a second message. Longer, more confident, and full of assumptions that made Lily's chest tighten. This time Frank wrote, "The family would love to hear from you. Your mother talks about you all the time. Jenna has been asking too. I think it's time we reconnect." Lily almost laughed at the mention of Jenna, a name she hadn't spoken aloud in years. She called her old friend Megan, who still kept loose contact with the Carter family. Megan sighed the moment Lily read the message. "Lil, your dad has been telling everyone he supported your journey. He showed your newspaper article at a cookout and said he always believed in you." The lie was so large it left Lily speechless. Megan continued softly, "He tells people you left home because you wanted independence." He erased the whole story. Lily sat on her couch staring at the wall, the memories of cold nights in her Corolla pressing heavily on her chest. Frank hadn't just abandoned her. He had rewritten her into a success story he could take credit for. That realization hurt sharper than the night he'd thrown her out. "He wants the version of me that looks good on Facebook," Lily whispered. Megan replied, "Then make sure he meets the version he created." For 3 more days, Lily thought about what to do, replaying the old wounds she had spent years hiding behind work and purpose. She didn't want revenge, but she couldn't let Frank rewrite her life a second time. She needed him to see the truth. Not the polished story, not the family myth, but the real cost of his choices. Mrs. Hayes told her, "If you respond, write it for yourself, not for him." So Lily sat at her kitchen table late one night, opened her laptop, and began writing the message she'd carried for 12 years. Every sentence felt heavy, but she kept typing because the truth finally had its turn. Lily began her reply with the date that had split her life in two, November 14, 2013. She wrote slowly, carefully, telling Frank exactly what had happened the night he pushed her out of the house. She described the cold air, the broken heater in her Corolla, and the way Jenna watched from the hallway without blinking. "You didn't ask if the bag was mine," she typed. "You didn't give me a chance to speak. You just pointed at the door." Her fingers shook as she wrote, but she didn't stop, not this time. She told him about the 3 nights she slept in parking lots, unable to feel her fingers, praying her car battery wouldn't die. She told him how a security guard checked on her before her own family did. She described calling him, calling Grace, calling Jenna, and hearing nothing but voicemail and silence. She wrote about Anna's mother finding her with numb hands and purple lips, whispering, "You're safe now," words Lily had needed from her own parents. Each memory hurt, but the truth finally felt like fresh air. Then Lily wrote about the letter she sent him 2 weeks after he threw her out. She told him how she had written it with hope, believing a father would at least read his daughter's words. She reminded him that he mailed it back unopened, with return to sender written in his handwriting. She attached a picture of the envelope, still sealed, still untouched, still carrying the weight of a girl who only wanted to come home. Lily wrote, "I kept it for 12 years not to hurt you, but because it was the only proof I tried." After that she wrote the part she knew would break him, the truth about Jenna. She attached the screenshot Megan had found, Jenna's message from years ago saying, "I moved my stuff to Lily's desk just in time. Dad's about to lose it." Lily stared at the sentence for a long moment before typing, "You punished the wrong daughter. And she watched you do it." She explained how Jenna measured her room for new curtains while Lily packed clothes into a trash bag. When Lily wrote, "You believed her lie and it cost me 12 years, she felt something inside her loosen. She ended the message with quiet honesty, not anger. "I'm not writing this to destroy you," she wrote. "I'm writing it because you asked to reconnect and you need to know what you're reconnecting to." Lily told him she didn't hate him, but she couldn't pretend the past hadn't happened. "You didn't just leave," she wrote. "You rewrote the story as if you were the father who stood beside me, not the one who closed the door." She hit send at 11:47 p.m., closed her laptop, and sat in the dark knowing she had finally handed the truth back to the person who created the pain. Frank read Lily's message in the quiet of his living room, expecting something warm or grateful. Instead, each sentence hit him like a weight he had never prepared to carry. Grace washed dishes in the kitchen and didn't notice the change in his breathing until she turned and saw him staring at his phone. He rose from his chair without a word, walked outside and sat in his old blue truck. He didn't turn on the engine. He didn't move. Grace followed minutes later, tapped on the window and heard something she hadn't heard in years: Frank crying hard enough to shake. Grace returned inside trembling, not knowing what to say. After almost an hour, Frank came back into the house, placed his phone on the table and whispered, "Read it." Grace read every line, her hand covering her mouth as tears began slipping down her cheeks. She whispered, "Oh Lily, oh my girl," her voice breaking in a way Frank had never heard. When she looked up, her eyes were full of shame, not surprise. Frank asked quietly, "Did you know anything about Jenna?" Grace shook her head. "No," she whispered. "But I should have." The next morning, Frank drove straight to Jenna's apartment, still shaken by the truth he had ignored for so long. Jenna opened the door in a robe and forced a confused smile. "Dad? What's going on?" He held up his phone with the screenshot displayed. "Is this real?" he asked. Jenna's eyes flickered, recognition flashing before she quickly said, "Dad, that's taken completely out of context." But Frank answered with a pain she had never heard before, "Your sister slept in a car because of you." Jenna tried to twist the story the same way she always did. "You're the one who kicked her out, not me," she snapped. Frank nodded slowly. "You're right. I did. Because I believed you." The words landed so heavily that Jenna couldn't speak. For the first time in her life, her usual excuses didn't work. Frank didn't yell or slam the door, he simply said, "Don't call the house for a while," and walked away. Jenna stood frozen in the doorway, the mask finally slipping from her face. Within hours, the truth moved through the Carter family like a storm no one expected. Jenna called Grace crying, insisting she was the victim and accusing everyone of taking Lily's side. Grace's voice trembled as she answered, "No, Jenna. We're hurting because of what you did." Then she hung up, her hands shaking so hard she had to sit down. Relatives began calling, asking questions they should have asked 12 years earlier. The lie that had once been so easy was now unraveling in the open. Frank eventually called his sister, Aunt Clara, the one who had believed his original story without hesitation. He confessed everything: the bag, the parking lots, the unopened letter, the years of silence. Clara was quiet for a long moment before whispering, "You let that child freeze, Frank." Her voice cracked. "And you told all of us she chose the streets." Frank didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He simply said, "I know." Clara hung up and called Lily that same evening, her voice trembling as she said, "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I should have asked you myself." Some relatives reacted quietly, changing the way they spoke about Lily as though trying to erase their own guilt. Others called Jenna directly, demanding an explanation that she wasn't prepared to give. Jenna posted a vague message online that read, "Sometimes family is the most toxic thing in your life." But for the first time, no one liked the post and no one commented. Without the lie protecting her, she had nothing to hide behind. Lily, however, didn't see any of this. She only heard pieces of the chaos through Megan. A week later, Frank sent Lily an email through her clinic's public contact page. He wrote, "I read your message 7 times. I read the letter you sent me. I can't undo what I did. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know I hear you now." Lily read it after a long shift, sitting alone at her kitchen table. She didn't cry, didn't shake, didn't feel the anger she once expected. She felt something else. Distance, the kind that forms when you've already carried the pain too far to hand it back. 4 days later, Lily responded. She thanked him for hearing her but was honest about the damage. "I don't hate you, Dad," she wrote. "But I can't trust you. Not yet. Maybe not ever." She also wrote that any chance of rebuilding would require years, not weeks, and it would begin only when Jenna admitted what she did. She ended the message with, "I need space. Please respect that." After sending it, she closed her laptop and didn't check her email for the rest of the night. 2 weeks passed before Frank replied with 3 simple words, "I understand." Around the same time, Grace sent her own message, her first direct words to Lily in more than a decade. She wrote, "I should have protected you. I was your mother first and I failed you. I'm trying to fix that now." Lily read the message twice, closed her eyes, and let the emotions settle slowly into her chest. She wasn't ready to forgive, but she recognized sincerity when she saw it. While all of this unfolded, the clinic prepared for its official grand opening, a moment Lily had worked toward for years. Her guest list filled itself. Anna, Mrs. Hayes, Dr. Wells, colleagues, and dozens of veterans who already trusted her. She didn't invite Frank, didn't invite Grace, and certainly didn't invite Jenna. But a week before the event, Aunt Clara called and asked softly, "May I come?" Lily answered without hesitation, "Yes, you can come." Clara whispered, "I don't deserve it," and Lily replied, "You asked." That's enough. The morning of the grand opening, Lily arrived early, unlocking the doors before the sun fully rose. She walked through each room, straightening clipboards and adjusting chairs, making sure every detail reflected the care she wanted people to feel the moment they stepped inside. By 10 o'clock, the parking lot was full of veterans, community members, social workers, and friends. Anna stood near the entrance holding a small bouquet she had insisted on buying, while Mrs. Hayes wiped her eyes long before the ceremony even started. Dr. Wells stepped to the podium first, praising Lily's determination and saying, "Some people build walls, but she built a door for others to walk through." When Lily approached the microphone, the crowd fell silent. She took a slow breath and said, "12 years ago I sat alone in a cold car with no one to call. Today I stand here to make sure no one ever feels that alone again." She didn't mention Frank or Grace or Jenna, because the day wasn't about them, it was about the people in front of her. She spoke of dignity, hope, and second chances, her voice steady even when her hands trembled. As she stepped back, the crowd rose in applause, and Mrs. Hayes cried openly, no longer trying to hide it. Through the applause, Lily noticed a figure standing near the far edge of the parking lot. A man in a worn jacket, hat pulled low, not approaching the crowd. It was Frank. He didn't wave or call her name. He simply watched her with a quiet heaviness she had never seen on him before. Lily didn't move toward him, but she didn't look away either. She gave a small nod, nothing more, and he nodded back. After a few minutes, Frank turned, walked to his truck, and drove away without disturbing the event. When the ceremony ended and the last visitor left, Lily stood outside the clinic with Mrs. Hayes beside her, both watching the sun dip low behind the buildings. "He came," Lily whispered, still unsure how she felt. Mrs. Hayes placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and said, "You don't have to do anything with that. It's his to carry now." Lily closed her eyes, letting the truth finally settle in her chest, the truth she no longer had to hold alone. She turned toward the clinic she built, the life she created, and walked inside with a quiet strength. For the first time in years she felt completely free.